Right now, for more on the trade talks, let's bring in Max Baucus. He is former U.S. Senator of Montana, also former U.S. Ambassador to China, and Kevin Rudd, who is the former Australian Prime Minister. He is now president of the Asia Society Policy Institute. And gentlemen, thank you both for being here.
You bet.
You are both longtime watchers of this. You know very well how the Chinese operate. So what do you think right now of these moves that Eunice just described? Does this get us closer to the potential for some sort of a deal on December 15th, or at least not raising tariffs here? What do you think, Kevin?
Well, I think given these moves by the Chinese customs authorities, it's a positive indication of where things might go. As I've said on this program before, my judgment is that it's overwhelmingly in both sides' interest to get a deal this year. And I actually stick by that, despite all the sound and all the ferment and all the statements recently by the president out of London saying we could do one after the next presidential election. I think this is still on. And I would be very surprised if we don't have a deal before the end of the year.
By still on, you mean that you think there is an official deal, and as a result, there are no additional tariffs that are put on by December 15th, and that the old tariffs that are already existing are rolled off, which is what the Chinese are asking for?
Well, take those in sequence. December 15 tariffs, I'd be highly surprised if we move in that direction.
Me too.
Not least because of the impact on American consumers, but also I think this would actually tank markets in a big way. Secondly, on existing tariffs, you're right to point to that, Becky, because that's where so much of the disagreement between the Americans and the Chinese negotiators lie now. There will be, to save, as it were, China's domestic face, some rollback of tariffs. How much, we don't know. But the sticking point at present, I think, is on the actual quantum of the proposed Chinese agricultural purchasing order from American farmers.
Max, does that sound like a deal that you think President Trump could accept?
I do. It depends on the amount, obviously. The slight irony here is that the president is asking for a certain amount of soybeans to be shipped from the United States to China, which is really kind of controlling it's managing the economy. It's not free market. It says even China buy a certain amount of soybeans. I very much hope, and I think frankly, there's some action by China today. It's good. It's pretty clever. It's kind of indicating that, hey, we want to stay at the table. We want to work something out here.
An olive branch, so to speak?
Yes, I do think that's true, and I think there'll be a deal.
What would surprise you? I mean, there are so many things that are out there right now, including all the human rights issues that are taking place in Hong Kong with the Uyghurs that have been brought up. Huawei, what's going to happen with that part of it? There are a lot of really complicated parts. Do you think that just gets ignored for now?
What I find fascinating, Becky, is that despite, let's call it, all the other things going on in the U.S.-China relationship at present, we've just had the passage, and the president has not vetoed the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act. China has not, as it were, decided to abolish or to put to one side the trade negotiations with the United States. We have the upcoming legislation through the House of Representatives on the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. These are major political factors for China. But what it does demonstrate is the Chinese are vulnerable.
That's what I was going to ask you. Were you surprised when they didn't really chafe as much as you would have thought? Were you surprised, and did that indicate that they are vulnerable? They don't want to throw away the deal, maybe?
As I've said on this program before, Joe, I think the Chinese are quite vulnerable on the economy. Growth is actually slow. Despite the
I couldn't believe they did nothing with that, because that's the kind of thing that they would have.
They didn't do nothing. They were very, very upset, and they will do something. But I think you're right in implying that they want to separate that out.
You raised an eyebrow for you. It's like, whoa, are they really going to, they're not going to be more strident in their response.
I think the main point is that there's separation here. They're not winning.
I think they knew Trump had to sign it. It was veto-proof. They knew Trump had to sign it, too, because it was veto-proof.
They make sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's the big significant thing here is China, looking at its own vulnerable book, has said we're going to push this stuff to one side, get the trade deal done, because we can't have that headwind ourselves into 2020.